Barbara, we know that even though they say that relationships between President Obama and Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel, even though those relationships were not so firm and so happy, that yet there was more aid flowing to Israel, something like $3 billion a year out of a budget of $15 billion, and that the results remain, as Obama himself has said, that Israel's gratitude is unshakable in terms of what she has received from the United States of America. Barbara, do you have a comment or a thought about this?
I do, Rabbi Wall. Yes, the President Obama has declared that America's commitment to Israel's security is unshakable, as you said. And I wanted to just mention the Memorandum of Understanding, which was to extend the U.S. subsidy of Israeli military budget until 2028. Well, there are many comments we can make about it. Israel is guaranteed $3.8 billion per year, which is not much of a change from the past. But this is going to be between 2018 and 2028. On paper, it seems generous. Susan Rice, Obama's national security advisor, said it was the largest pledge of military assistance to any country in history. But one has to look at the what happens between the lines when one sees such a deal, and one wonders what will happen after President is gone, because the problem is that this was only done on condition that Israel has given up the right to make its case directly to Congress for military aid. There's big question marks about this, because this is not that the administration should be doling out the money. It should be Congress that makes these kinds of decisions. And Obama's deal is less than it seems, not only because the White House should not be appropriating this, or because now they're putting lobbying restrictions as off target, but because Obama's successor may not honor the pledge. In fact, if we look at history, Obama himself discarded an agreement with Israel's leaders that was made by George W. Bush and was supported by Congress, which was to accept the legitimacies of the settlements in and around Jerusalem. So if he can break a deal that was done by his predecessor, why shouldn't the next president break, in fact, what he has done? But the other aspects to this deal, the White House has gotten away with another key issue, which is known as the offshore procurement carve-out. Here, Israel is allowed to spend around 26% of the U.S. aid. Is not allowed to spend it on its own defense industry. In fact, it only can spend it on the U.S. industry. This is a problem because it's a problem actually for both countries. America needs the money because the budget has been cut to very little. But what normally should happen is that Israel helps the United States by developing, which it has developed over several years.
Here we have Frank coming in.
Okay, so I'll take a break now. We'll come back to this. Frank,
all right, Frank, let's hear.
You want to make a comment about the discussion?
Yes, I would like to. First of all, if you don't mind, I would just like to acknowledge the passing of a great human being, a great American, and a great athlete, Arnold Palmer.
Yes.
I hope you don't mind me mentioning that. He was a great humanitarian, and he was a very, very generous man. Let me see this, and I know Netanyahu knows the phrase, beware strangers bearing gifts, and Barack Obama is a stranger to Israel. A stranger in the sense that deep down in his soul, I don't believe for a minute he has the welfare of Israel in his heart or in his mind, evidenced the overthrow of Mubarak and the ushering in of the Brotherhood, the Islamic Brotherhood. Thank God for President Sisi, if that's his title, President Premier, I'm not sure. But thank God for their military there to overthrow the haters of the West, and particularly Israel. I won't even comment some of the statements that the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood said about Jews. You can hear it any day on the Hannity show. He always reminds people what they said about Jewish people. The Green Movement in Iran, he didn't lift a finger, Obama, to help those people. And this is supposedly a Democrat, someone who believes in democracy, freedom of the individual. He turned his back on those people. Do we not remember that man holding his daughter in the streets as she had been shot by the Quds Force people that went into the streets and murdered and maimed Iranians who simply wanted to breathe free and live free? And Barack Obama turned his back on them. And what has he ushered into the Middle East? An Iran that will, before too long, will have nuclear weapons. He didn't strike any bargain that did Israel any favor. He put Israel in the crosshairs of the Iranians, who every day are working on missile technology to deliver those nuclear weapons that they're developing. Barack Obama is a traitor to his country. He is a traitor to the West, and particularly a traitor to Israel. Thank you, folks.
All right, Frank. Thanks
Thank you,
a lot.
Frank, for your comments.
And,
I think you're quite correct because, just looking through, when I say you're correct, there have been many decisions that have been made that have been not good for the world. Yeah. By sitting on the sidelines in Syria, when the original rebels needed help, it would have really been the right decision to help them, because what has happened, it's now just become a breeding ground for fighting between Russia and Iran and all the various countries. So his decision in Syria, I believe, was an impotent decision. His decision to intervene in Libya, I think, was a mistake, because what's happened in Libya was a leader who was turning towards the West, was going to work with the West, and in fact he's created a very hostile environment in Libya. His deal with Iran is just as you dealt with, I think, correct. The whole Iraqi situation, exiting Iraq was a problem because leaders, the Shiite leaders, then persecuted the country's Sunni minority. And of course, as we know, that's been the rise of ISIS. Whether one can blame the policies of the administration on the rise of ISIS, I don't want to point that finger. I'm going to let somebody else point that finger.
Yes.
But also, Russia has used Syria to set up its air bases. So the world is in total disarray. They say in the last 7.5 years, 27 countries have been impacted in the negative by decisions made by the administration. So I worry very much about any agreements that the president made with Israel. But again, Israel, the Prime Minister Netanyahu is free to make the deal that he felt temporarily or long-term would be a good deal. I can only make a comment on whether I believe. But I do think that Israel's working very strongly to develop things. We've spoken about the F-35s. As promised by the United States, this is the year to receive the F-35s. We know there's work to be done. President Obama has told Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, go ahead. You're getting permission to change them, upgrade them, do better, improve them. So these countries work together. Israel and America will work together for a long time. America needs Israel. Israel certainly needs America. And we hope that this blip of the Memorandum of Understanding, which was to tie Bibi Netanyahu's hands until 2028, will work.
I'm glad you brought up the United Nations, because there we suffer real defeats in voting, where the enemies of Israel have a field day and the nations of the world do not protest to the lying and terrible record of the UN and Israel. But we're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a few minutes, so please keep on listening.
with business news at 20 past the hour. Here's the latest update from the Fox Business Network on 1460 WVOX.
From the Fox Business Network, sales of new single-family homes falling less than expected in August. Prices fell and inventories rose. New home sales fell 7.6%. It seems like many car companies are joining together in ventures when it comes to self-driving cars. Renault already has an alliance with Nissan. Now that partnership will also involve Microsoft. Microsoft will help develop cloud-based services for cars. It turns out that Mylan, maker of the EpiPen, actually earns more from its product than the company's CEO told lawmakers when she was on Capitol Hill last week. Mylan's profits on an EpiPen 2-pack are closer to $160, or 60% higher than the figure the company gave Congress. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Carol Zimmer.
Not available in all states.
Whoa, what do you have there?
It's a Reese and Irvy's frozen yogurt. We just had our robot make one.
A robot made your frozen yogurt?
Yes, the world's first fully interactive robot vending machine that serves 9 flavors of delicious yogurt with 6 amazing toppings. And it's available for an exclusive franchise opportunity.
How do I get my own Reese and Irvy's robots?
It's easy, but you better act now. Locations and machines are going fast. Just go to froyofranchising.com and enter promo code 3939. That's froyofranchising.com, promo code 3939.
Take heart, White Plains and Central Westchester. Now that your local radio voice of many years has given up on the local scene and abandoned all local programming, there is still one remaining local voice. Welcome to WVOX and WVOX.com.
And nothing can stop it.
America's great community radio station. Live and local. For you and yours. No cookie-cutter, piped-in, syndicated, one-size-fits-all corporate programming. There's always something happening at WVOX.
I love listening to you.
Now Westchester's only independent local community radio station. And we're glad you joined us, White Plains.
WVOX.
Now back to The Rabbi and the Judge on 1460 WVOX with Rabbi Amiel Wall, the Rabbi Emeritus of Temple Israel of New Rochelle, and the Honorable Judge Sam Fredman. Now, once again, The Rabbi and the Judge on 1460 WVOX.
We certainly hope Judge Fredman recovers and gets better very quickly. So we're talking today about the fact that anti-Semitism exists on campuses across the United States. Not enough is being done about it. Indeed, students and faculty fear coming forward to report anti-Semitism.
Yes, Rabbi Wall. Unfortunately, the CUNY campuses around New York have been plagued by vicious anti-Semitic incidents. At a rally at CUNY's Hunter College, organized by the so-called Students for Justice in Palestine, which mostly they just foreign students that are not part of Hunter. Protesters chanted "Jews out of CUNY," "Death to Jews," "Long live the Intifada," and there's only one solution: Intifada revolution. Well, calling for an Intifada is really a call to murder Jews. And they in repeating this "Long live the Intifada," it's a real problem. Protesters cursed and threatened Jews at the Hunter rally with comments such as, "Is that all you can do? Come along, take your people, your Jewish people." I mean, it was actually horrific. Go back home. I mean, it was really a problem. So what happened is that the Zionist Organization of America criticized in a strong report to CUNY, talking about the fact that CUNY students are feeling harassed, threatened, and unsafe. And the investigators have confirmed that this is true. They acknowledged that the anti-Semitic incidents are causing these students to feel not welcome. The problem is that the CUNY, the heads of CUNY, are not going to take a strong enough role, and that is a problem, because the First Amendment does not preclude punishing hate speech that's offensive to African Americans and women, but only Jews. and this needs to be looked at. This happening so close to us, New York campuses,
we have
is
a
a
guest
problem.
on the telephone who's been stimulated by the conversation here. Hello, Mr. Guest. Tell us who you are.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. No, I just heard a conversation where the president was called a traitor, and you didn't respond to that. What's your feeling about that?
Barbara, can you answer that?
Well, we were listening. You're talking about when the
caller
caller called in.
Anyone who calls a president a traitor is a traitor himself, but that's my own personal opinion.
Well,
But, I mean-
he was. I think the caller was talking about the fact that things are being turned against Israel,
Miss, do you agree
which
that
is a bit of a problem?
Characterization of the president as a traitor?
You know what? I'm not going to comment on someone else's comment. I don't see him as a traitor necessarily in terms of this country, but what somebody perceives as a traitor to another country is entitled to his opinion.
Well, I'm asking you, do you think he is? Forget about the other comment.
In what context are you talking of? In terms of the deal that we were discussing, or are you talking about in general?
Hold on a second. I'm sorry.
Oh, you'll have to come back on the program, sir. Barbara,
Let's
will you go
continue.
ahead?
Okay, we'll continue. So Rabbi Wall, we were talking about CUNY, about the CUNY campuses, because
Yes.
Brooklyn College was also a problem, where a student's mother was arrested by Students for Justice in Palestine, simply because she was getting upset about the anti-Israeli. She was taking off the anti-Israeli chalkings off a sidewalk that were illegally drawn there in the first place. So it looks like there are groups that are coming in to help harass and intimidate the students on campus, which is a little bit of a problem on the Brooklyn campuses, on the Hunter campuses. I think even the Staten Island College, a Jewish student carrying a sign to promote harmony on campus, was told by another student, "I wouldn't hug a Jew." These are major issues. And when anti-Israeli students disrupt a student's class presentation on women in the Israeli Defense Force, shouting that Israeli soldiers are women soldiers or Israeli soldiers are killers, the professor did not intervene. A Hillel student and executive director of Hillel were bullied and harassed on Facebook. So Students for Justice in Palestine, one doesn't know who's behind this. Is it the Muslim Brotherhood? Who is behind this? But whatever it is, CUNY needs to respond strongly, and it needs to protect its students from this feeling of harassment and intimidation.
Well, you know what I dislike about the situation is that the college faculties, which are filled with Jewish professors, lack the incentive and the drive, many of them, to object, and are more playing a kind of a game with a left liberal constituency in which they try to be more outlandish than the other members of the faculty, when their job should be to inculcate truth and the real values and support for something as important and sacred as Israel.
Right. And that's where the line drawn between I'm not anti-Jews, I'm just anti-Israelis is fake. You know, that's why I believe very often, most often, when there's a criticism of Israel as a whole, there's a simmering anti-Semitism below that. And I think that's what occurs in many instances of Students for Justice in Palestine. And we try to keep racial hatred away out of campuses and create harmony and an environment of peace.
Well, there's always hope. And there's a very wonderful story.
I think
that
we're
came
taking
out
a
of
break
Hungary.
now. I think it's going to be too.
You want to take a break right now? They're coming in with the music. We'll take a break. We'll be right back, so don't go away.
with world and national news. Here is the latest update from Fox News Radio on 1460 WVOX.
Fox News Radio, I'm Paul Stevens. Presidential debate number 1 tonight in New York between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, with the Clinton camp voicing a major concern.
I'm very concerned that Donald Trump will be graded on a curve. Just because he doesn't fly off the handle in the middle of this debate does not mean that he is prepared to be president of the United States.
Clinton campaign manager Robbie Mook. The baseball world shocked after the boating death early Sunday morning of a bright young star.
Miami Marlins baseball stadium will be full of heartache and tears tonight when Marlins all-star pitcher Jose Fernandez was supposed to be on the mound. But a deadly boat wreck in Miami Beach killed the 24-year-old and 2 of his friends. Fernandez escaped communist Cuba by boat on his desperate 4th attempt. He was the Marlins' ace and considered one of the league's best.
Fox's Phil Keating in Miami. Fox News, we report, you decide.
I'm Catherine Miller, founder of the Miller Law Group in New Rochelle. Divorce is hard. People are uncertain and all kinds of fears come up. Divorce is also complicated. During divorce, you're untangling threads from so many aspects of your life, your finances, your children, your legal status. I believe in taking an integrative approach to divorce because divorce happens at the intersection of where you've been and where you're going. It should point you in the direction that you want to go in, taking into account the things that are important to you, taking into account your children. You have a choice as to how to make those decisions. You can do it with compassion and heart and focus rather than reaction, anger, with thoughts of revenge. Give me a call and let's talk about it. 914-738-7765 or find me online, www.westchesterfamilylaw.com.
And now with your latest up-to-date forecast, here's Steve Pellettieri's Eye on Weather on 1460 WVOX.
Here's a forecast for Westchester. Mostly sunny this afternoon. Temperatures lower 70s. Southeast winds 5 to 15. Tonight becoming cloudy. Showers likely overnight and towards daybreak down to about 61. Showers are likely on Tuesday morning. In the afternoon becoming partly sunny. Gradually, though, highs will reach the middle 70s. West winds tomorrow. At night, clear in the mid-50s. Partly sunny on Wednesday, but some showers likely late day and evening, where highs will range to around 70 to 75. Rain likely on Thursday. I'm meteorologist Steve Pelletieri for 1460 WVOX.
Bob Marone in the morning, Fred Dicker in the afternoon, and so much more in between. We're the station where so many different voices are heard every day. 1460 WVOX.
Now, back to The Rabbi and the Judge on 1460 WVOX with Rabbi Amiel Wall, the Rabbi Emeritus of Temple Israel of New Rochelle, and the Honorable Judge Sam Fredman. Now, once again, The Rabbi and the Judge on 1460 WVOX.
Well, Barbara, what do you think?
Well, I was interested, Rabbi, while we were talking about anti-Semitism on campuses, where they were actually attacking Jews for being Jews. But what was very interesting was our discussion about the former anti-Semitic Hungarian MP. Very hard to pronounce his name. Kasana Gazecki. He was an extreme right-wing, anti-Semitic, Jobbik Party person who quit when he discovered that he was Jewish. And guess what? He's now making Aliyah to Israel. In an interview with the Jerusalem Post, he said that he's waiting with great excitement for the moment when he becomes an Israeli citizen. And now he's going to fight from the other side. He's going to fight anti-Semitism. He's actually quite young. He's only 34 years old. He's married. He has 2 young children. Prior to discovering his Jewish roots, he was known for the extreme position of the anti-Semitic statements of this particular party, Jobbik is, I think how you spell it. And he was one of the founders of the Hungarian Guard, an extreme nationalist group The members wear black uniforms. They see themselves as descendants of Hungary's fascist Arrow Cross Party. Remember, they collaborated with the Nazis and actually did the dirty work. They were the ones who killed the Jews in World War II. And he was actually a senior member. In fact, I think he worked his way up to vice president in 2012, representing his party in the European Parliament. But the middle of 2012, June of 2012, he stunned Hungary when he found out that his grandparents on his mother's side were Jewish. His grandmother had survived Auschwitz. His grandfather was in forced labor camps. And he started to study about what it was to be Jewish. He started studying the Bible, studying the Talmud. He began to observe the Sabbath, Saturdays, and keep kosher. And then he had the opportunity to visit Israel. And it's rather amazing that after this whole thing, he's decided to what we call make aliyah and go and live in Israel. He said that Israel is an amazing country. He believes that everybody who lives outside the country should consider being there, as he's considering being, as he's going to Israel. And of course, I'm sure he's in total outcast now in Hungary.
Well, we want to say that Hungary has always been one of the most important countries for Jewish people because its Jewish population has been large, very active. In fact, to the United States came many of the current Hasidim. They survived the war in Europe, and they came here to the United States. America gave them refuge, and we are appreciative of what America has done for so many waves of oppressed people who come here for a new chance, a new life. But we'd like to have a caller, 636-0110, and hear some of your comments. So don't hesitate.
Right. Thank you so much. Rabbi Wall, we were talking about Arabs indigenous to mandatory Palestine.
Yeah.
It's you and I spoke about Walter Loudermilk, the book of Walter Loudermilk, several times, referred to it and quoted from it. I think that was the book that was the bestseller, multiple printings. In fact, when Roosevelt died, that was the book that was open on his desk. But there's been another revelation with the look at the writings of William Ziff recently, and his message, where he contradicts the message that Jews have stolen land in Israel, and that it was a land that was belonged to indigenous Arab population.
Yes, there's a lot of falsification and bad mathematics when they try to determine just how many Arabs are there on the West Bank. And we know that the bulk of Arab population to Judea, Samaria, and those areas on the West Bank, that all this was a matter of growth after economic engines of the Jews settling in Israel, resettling ancient lands, creating beautiful pastures and all kinds of things productive in agriculture. To this day, one of the best architectural and archaeological and world famous for its oranges and other great fruits and vegetables and wheat. So we can be proud of what the Zionists, those Jews who loved Israel the most so that they made Aliyah, they went up to the land of Israel. We can see that they're the true descendants. They've already now 3 generations in the land of Israel, and they've done well, and the Arabs have simply followed the economic trail.
Right, that's exactly what Ziff said. Ziff wrote the book called The Rape of Palestine, and he lived in Chicago. He established the Ziff Davis publishing company, which specialized in technical magazines, the thrust of book Ziff is about the British policy in Palestine, and allowing illegal Arabs to come in because of prosperity and stopping Jewish immigration. And what was these? I'm going to actually quote from some of his. He says, not until the Zionists had arrived in numbers did the Arab population begin to augment itself. The introduction of European standards of wage and life acted like a magnet on the entire Near East. Abruptly, Palestine became an Arab center of attraction. By 1922, after a quarter century of Jewish colonization, numbers mushroomed to 488,000. And today there are over 1 million. So he said it's precisely in the vicinity of Jewish villages that Arab development was most marked. Arab Haifa profited from the Zionist boom, grew from 1922 to 1936 by 130%. In Jaffa by 80%. In Jerusalem by 55%. The Arab rural settlement in Tel Aviv district increased by over 135%. The all-Arab city of Nablus, which held 33% before the war, has fallen to less than 12%. So that obviously is not where Jews were. So the fact that the population in Nablus fell is proof that where Jews were creating work is where the Arabs came to. In fact, what happened was very interesting. I found this piece it was interesting, is that Jews who were forbidden by the British to go into Palestine at the time, now Israel, disguised themselves as illegal Arabs so that they could try and immigrate. There was a story, a news item in July of 1934, which refers to 5 Jewish women coming overland from Damascus, attired in traditional costumes of Muslim women, including black veils, and they were apprehended at the border when police saw their disguise, that they were really Jews and not illegal Arabs going for work.
Oh, very interesting, very revealing. And we know that Israel today faces an unprecedented array of threats that range from growing weapon capabilities of Hamas and Hezbollah and the potentially nuclear-armed Iran in the longer term. These threats require the Jewish state to significantly increase its defense expenditures in order to protect itself and to keep its citizens safe. America, our beloved America, must continue to help ensure that Israel has the resources necessary to meet these growing security challenges. So we have our job to alert the world, to alert people to the need to support Israel for the sake of stability in the Middle East, in American interests, that America be able to draw the oil and gasoline out of the ground in Saudi Arabia in peace, and combat Iran, not to give them billions of dollars and not to stand on your head and hope somehow that they're going to behave. They've proven that they can't behave in civilized society, and we must be on our guard. Is that correct, Barbara?
That is absolutely correct, Rabbi. And I don't know how this president went about doing the Iranian deal. What a total disaster. There was no upside to it at all. Thank you. We're going to take a little break now.
Yes, we're taking a break.
We'll come back. We have some more interesting things to discuss.
With world and national news, here is the latest update from Fox News Radio on 1460 WVOX.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. Polls still show a tightening race between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump ahead of tonight's presidential debate. A new survey from Monmouth University has Clinton with a 4-point lead, down from 7% a month ago.
Clinton has the support of 91% of Democrats, while Trump gets the backing of 85% of Republicans. That's an improvement for Trump, whose GOP support was below 80% in prior polls.
Fox Radio's John Decker. The sports world mourning the death of golfing legend Arnold Palmer. Old friend and rival Jack Nicklaus tells the Fox Business Network.
I think Arnold and I spent more time trying to beat each other than we did trying to beat the field. And that was all right because we got off the day. I shot 74 and he'd shoot 75. And he says, I said, well, I got you today. And of course, the whole field passed us, but that didn't make any difference to the two of us.
Palmer died yesterday at age 87 of heart complications at his home in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Yeah, it's me, your heart. Listen to me. We've got to talk. High blood pressure is serious, and yours? Whoa. What happened to us? We used to be so much more active. But lately you've been ignoring me. I know you think I'm just gonna keep ticking away forever, but you're wrong. You can do so much more to control your high blood pressure. Doing the minimum isn't doing enough. I'm under a lot of pressure and can quit whenever I want. Bet you didn't know that. But I like my job. Just treat me better. Check on me. Give me something green to nibble on every once in a while. And maybe we can do some exercise on occasion. Let's get to it. After all, we're in this together.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
The Wartburg panel of experts on senior living is here on 1460 WVOX. You can get tips on living better, living longer, and loving life. Join Janet Palazzolo, the Vice President of Residential Services at Wartburg, on the first Wednesday of every month from 10 to 10:30 on WVOX. Get the latest information on living as independently as possible for as long as possible. Also learn about healthy lifestyles for older adults, transit caregiving, and much more. For over 100 years, Wartburg has been nurturing people's minds, bodies, and spirits. Be sure to listen, because this show brings the Wartburg's tradition of caring right to you. The first Monday of every month, 10 to 10:30 a.m., with the Wartburg panel of experts, here on 1460 WVOX and WVOX.com.
Hometown radio for you and yours. The one and only one. 1460 WVOX.
WVOX.
Now back to The Rabbi and the Judge on 1460 WVOX with Rabbi Amiel Wall, the Rabbi Emeritus of Temple Israel of New Rochelle, and the Honorable Judge Sam Fredman. Now, once again, The Rabbi and the Judge on 1460 WVOX.
Well, we keep hoping Judge Fredman will emerge, and pray for him, keeping in our good thoughts and good prayers, and he'll improve. That's our faith. But Barbara, we've been having a fascinating discussion of Middle East events, and your analysis is always helpful. I know one of the things that is most interesting is the water in the Middle East and how precious that commodity is, and how Israel is a leader now in the purification of water. What do you know? What can you tell us about water and Israel?
Well, in contrast to the rest of the Middle East and North Africa, sometimes known as MENA, M-E-N-A, Israel in 2012, in fact, a good friend of mine, the Minister of National Infrastructure at the time, Uzi Landau, stated that Israel's water deficit would be overcome by the end of the decade due to the development of desalinization. That's what Israel has specialized in, and besides other things such as drip irrigation, reutilizing the water. So Israel is the one piece of good news in the region, but the impact upon this the region of the Middle East and North Africa of the struggle for water cannot be overstated. Water issues underlie much of the region's volatility, and could in fact lead to further turmoil in the Middle East. Water was certainly one of the crucial factors in the outbreak of Syrian fighting, and is affecting relationships between Egypt and Ethiopia as we speak over the building of the dam on the Nile River that Egypt fears could diminish its share of the Nile's water. Egypt really depends on that water. In fact, Egypt is so short of water that it has under 700 cubic meters per person per year. That's roughly about the water that you find in a 25-meter swimming pool. And that has to stretch for each person over the year. In fact, during the short term of the Muslim Brotherhood leader, Morsi, who ruled over Egypt, he was said to say he would fight to the death for each drop of water in the Nile. It's worrisome for everybody as to how they're going to manage without the water. They're going to have to turn to Israel probably.
Yeah, well, it helps you to understand the politics of the Middle East when you say Israel can't give back the West Bank. The water supplies are on the West Bank. If Israel gave it back to the Arabs or gave it to the Arabs, they would simply pollute it, waste it, not use it for constructive purposes. So what's the point? Let them use Israeli water, which is there for their use, and they do use it. And let's continue to try to help the nations of Africa and Asia with their problems. Water is going to be one of the biggest issues, controlling it, owning it, watching out for it as we enter the 21st centuries.
In fact, Rabbi Wall, the peace treaty with Jordan.
Yes, the peace treaty with Jordan is based on water.
Exactly. And when we talk about the West Bank, what are we talking about? It's really the West Bank of the Jordan River.
That's right.
Even though it's in Israel, it's the West Bank of the Jordan River rather than any other
right.
West Bank.
And if you are a student of the Bible, and I advise you become one, if you're not one, you can read about the West Bank, Judea, Samaria, how it was in those days of the prophet Samuel and the kings of Israel. It's a great and inspiring history whichever monarch to some degree adopted in the modern world.
Right. So, I'm hoping to visit Egypt at some point in time, and I'm hoping to look at one of the things that Egypt is doing in terms of water, but the Nile Basin is actually shared by 11 countries, and under 1959 agreement, Egypt is roughly entitled to 2/3 of the river's flow. But as the population grows, and we know that Egypt has a major population, it's running short of water, and we need a stable Egypt. It's one of the countries who really need a stable Egypt in the Middle East.
Well, the Nile River is the longest river in the world. And it's great to drive a car or ride a bike and look out at the Nile River, oldest in the world, mentioned in the Bible.
That's a good quiz question. What's the oldest river in the world?
The longest.
The longest, not the oldest. The longest.
I knew that's what you meant.
I meant that.
But now
yes.
The last item, which really deserves an entire broadcast, is the Iranian influence in the war in Yemen. There's Yemen tucked in the shoulder, as it were, of Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is trying to preserve its sphere of influence, but it's running up against some of these diabolical association of armed forces that are the enemies of the Saudi Arabians, of the Egyptians, of Jordanians, and of Israelis. These natural unity binds them together, and we're looking at that with hope in the future.
Right. Well, Yemen is also a strategic area, so that's worrisome of the conflict. But the rivalry between the Persians and the inhabitants of Arabia antedates the advent of Islam, dating back to antiquity and the rule of the Persian Empire. And the traditional Persian-Arab rivalry, compounded by the sectarian Sunni-Shia divide, There's actually been exacerbated by the Saudi-Iranian proxy battles throughout the region, including in Yemen, where Iran supported the forces of the Houthis.
The Houthi.
Houthis.
Houthi.
Excuse me. The Houthi rivals, rebels. Actually, Yemen is a tribal society. There are about 26 million people, and it's very, very tribal. But of course, Saudi Arabia is constantly observing what's going on.
And there was a wonderful Jewish community that lived in Yemen for centuries. And finally, they were airlifted to Israel as if on eagle's wings, as the Bible would put it. And it was something to see 70,000 Yemeni Jews coming off the airplanes as they made an effort to bring them to Israel, to let them be free people and not be subject to persecution and harassment. And we were proud to say this was accomplished without the loss of life, and that the Yemenite Jews are a terrific part of the population of Israel today.
Actually, I want to add to that. It sounds like a travelogue or an advert for Tel Aviv, but there's a wonderful Yemenite area on the side of Tel Aviv, going towards, closer towards Jaffa, but near the market, with fine restaurants, Yemenite restaurants. Yemenite cooking is fabulous cooking, and I always look forward to a Yemenite meal when I visit Israel and when I am in Tel Aviv. And so I highly recommend, besides swimming in the beautiful ocean and walking along the boardwalk and surfing and doing and frequenting the outdoor cafes until well into the early hours of the morning. It's one of the most vibrant cities. I always say that Tel Aviv is as good as Manhattan and has the added advantage of being on the ocean.
Well, Barbara, you go to Israel every few months. Do you have a trip coming up that you're thinking about putting together to go to Israel again?
I'd very much like to. In fact, in our next broadcast, I'd like to talk about an organization called Shurat Hadin, Rabbi Wall.
Okay.
And I would like to take another trip with them. I have been with them. It's a wonderful organization. They're legal. They do legal work. And work on counter-terrorist issues. And I hope to go and join them, possibly. I think we have to endure the winter. I don't feel like going to Israel during the winter because then I can't swim in the ocean, but possibly in April and May. And what are your plans? Are you planning to visit?
Well, I'm thinking Florida at this time of year, not to undermine touring to Israel, but just because. And Barbara, thanks for coming in, as you usually do, presenting a fountain of knowledge, of refreshing facts. And we thank all those who listen to the broadcast. And if you want any material on any of these subjects, just drop a line to the station and we'll see that you get the publications.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity. And we always thank our listeners, many of whom do not call in, and we wish they would call in and make their statements and ask their questions and add their comments. They're always welcome, whether they're positive comments or not positive. We always welcome people calling in.
That's right.
And I know that Rosh Hashanah is coming up, Rabbi Wall, soon, in less than a week.
Yes, the Jewish New Year is coming up in exactly 2 weeks. We'll all be in synagogue praying for...
It's less than that. It's sooner than that, the Jewish New Year. So we're hoping that everybody has a happy New Year if we don't have time to personally wish them.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to celebrating and having introspection as the new year rolls in.
You've been listening to The Rabbi and the Judge on 1460 WVOX with Rabbi Amiel Wall, the Rabbi Emeritus of Temple Israel of New Rochelle, and the Honorable Judge Sam Fredman. Tune in again next Monday afternoon at 1 for The Rabbi and the Judge on 1460 WVOX and WVOX.com.